Welcome once again. Today we are looking at emotional wounds and how your past shapes your relationships. What is emotional wounds? Many people believe that once an experience is over, it no longer affects them. But once it comes to emotional wounds, the opposite is often true. What we do not heal, we carry. What we have passed through and we do not heal, we carry. And what we carry quietly shapes our choices, reactions, expectations, and relationships. And often without us knowing. Once there is emotional wound, it does not stay in the past. Rather, it keeps rearing its head. It affects the present and it affects the future. So let's look at what are emotional wounds. What are emotional wounds? Emotional wounds are unresolved emotional injuries, often formed when our core needs for love, safety, validation, acceptance, or connection were not adequately met. This often comes through childhood neglect or emotional absence, harsh criticism or rejection, betrayal or broken trust, abandonment or inconsistency, painful romantic relationships, repeated emotional invalidation. These wounds are not always caused by dramatic events. Sometimes they are formed quietly when no one is looking. Through what didn't happen, or what wasn't said, or what one learned to endure in the course of growing up. Emotional wounds, they are silent and they don't heal on their own. Emotional wounds are not just bad things that happen. They are sometimes perceived injuries to our emotional self that occurred when we were vulnerable, and most of the times, often in childhood, which left a core belief about ourselves, others, and the world. That is emotional wound. Why emotional wound does not heal on their own? Time does not automatically heal emotional wounds. It often teaches us to survive with them. And when wounds remain unhealed, the mind adapts by creating coping mechanisms. What are these coping mechanisms? Sometimes you withdraw. So you have emotional withdrawal. You have overgiving. You have control. You have hyper independence. You don't want to be attached to anybody. You feel that if you get close to somebody, you are going to be hurt. Fear of vulnerability. You don't want to show an ounce of vulnerability because you feel that if you show it, you'll be crushed. Emotional numbness. These behaviors may protect us temporarily, but they eventually interfere with intimacy, trust, and connection. How the past shapes relationship patterns. We did not choose relationship purely based on logic or values. We chose based on what feels familiar, what you are used to, what you know, what you are used to growing up. That's what we choose. Familiarity is shaped by early emotional experiences, significant emotional experiences, or childhood trauma, or childhood wounds that you pass through. That's why many people find themselves repeating the same relationship dynamics with different partners. Different faces, same emotional pain. Different faces, same emotional pains. Psychologists like Dr. John Bradshaw and researchers in attachment theory point to key foundational wounds. What are the common emotional wounds and their pattern? We have the wound of abandonment. The fear of being left alone or uncared for, which often lead to fear of being left, emotional dependency, or staying in unhealthy relationship too long. We have rejection wound. May show up as low self-worth, settling for less, people-pleasing, or avoiding vulnerability. The belief that you are fundamentally flawed, unwanted, or don't belong. Now, let's look at the root cause for the wound of abandonment and neglect. It is physical or emotional absence of a caregiver. The wound of rejection. What is the root cause? Being criticized. Maybe when you were younger, you were being criticized, you are not good enough, you are not wanted, feeling unwanted, excluded, and made to feel too much or not enough. We have betrayal wounds and broken trust. This often results in control issues, difficulty trusting, suspicion, or emotional testing. They believe that others will hurt, use, or deceive you. What is the root cause? Broken promises, lies you were being told, or emotional manipulation by a trusted figure. The other common emotional wound is neglect wound. Frequently lead to emotional loneliness, overgiving, and attraction to emotionally unavailable patterns. There is the wound of humiliation and shame. They believe that you are bad, dirty, or worthless. The root cause being ridiculed while growing up, controlled through shame, or having your dignity undermined. There is the wound of injustice. They believe that the world is unfair, that your efforts are never recognized, and that you must be perpetually rigid to survive. What is the root cause? Growing up in a cold, overly critical, or perfectionistic environment where you have no voice. Crucially, these wounds create maladaptive core beliefs. For example, I am unlovable. I cannot just trust anyone. I must be perfect to be accepted. My needs are a burden. These patterns are not character flaws. They are survival responses formed in moments when the heart was hot. How emotional wounds shape your future. Unhealed emotional wounds influence who you are attracted to, what you tolerate in relationships, how you handle conflicts, how safe you feel being seen and known, how you give and receive love. If left undressed, emotional wound can quietly sabotage marriages, friendship, or even relationship with God by distorting trust, intimacy, and emotional safety. That's why some people find themselves successful in many areas of life, yet consistently struggling in relationship. How wounds create survival strategies. You remember as kids, we can't process these wounds. So we build brilliant adaptive survival strategies to get our needs met and avoid pain. These strategies become our personality architecture. So the abandonment wound might create a pursuer or a clinger personality where you feel that you must merge, somebody must merge with you to be safe. Or its opposite, the isolator. I will leave you before you leave me. I can't be here. I don't have time for all this nonsense. If you don't want me, I will leave you. The rejection wound might create a people pleaser or a performer personality, where it's shown as must be perfect and useful to earn your love. Or a rebel. I will reject the norms before they even reject me. I must do it the way that I like. I don't care what the society is saying. The betrayal wound creates controllers and walls, meaning you say, I must maintain power and never show vulnerability. The humiliation wound creates overachievers or self-saboteurs who believe that I must be exceptional to prove that I'm not worthless. I must show that I'm not worthless. Or if I fail first to confirm, or I'll fail first to confirm my worthlessness. The injustice wound creates rigid moralists or critics. People that believe that the world is unfair and I must rigidly ensure rules to survive. One thing is that these strategies work in childhood. They keep us alive, emotionally or physically. But then when we grow up and bring this entire operating system into our adult relationships, that's where the patterns emerged. The patterns and how the blueprint play out. A wounded self, armed with a survival strategy, goes into every interaction. He's not seeing the person in front of us. He's seeing a protagonist from our past. And this is called projection or transference. The circle is like this. There is a trigger. Maybe your partner is quiet. Maybe there's a neutral event that happened. Instead of your partner reacting, he just chose to be quiet. Your wound is activated. If you have an abandonment wound, you don't see a quiet partner. You see withdrawing affection. And your nervous system screams, danger. Then your survival strategy activates. You become the pursuer. You might become anxious, demand reassurance, or become accusatory and saying, why are you ignoring me? Then the dysfunctional dance begins. This pushes your partner, who might have their own wound, example, a rejection wound, to actually withdraw, fulfilling your deepest fear, a self-fulfilling prophecy. And then the reinforcement comes. This one whispers, I told you. You always be abandoned. You are not good enough. You are unlovable. Then the belief is cemented. And one funny thing is that we are all drawn to people who feel familiar. Not people who are wealthy. Familiar often means people who subconsciously confirms our core beliefs. The person with an abandonment wound is magnetically drawn to an avoidant partner. The person with a rejection wound is drawn to the critical partner. It's not masochism. It's the brain's attempt to fix the old story with a new ending, which almost never work. How healing changes the future. Healing does not mean erasing the past. It means removing its power over the present. You learn to know that what has happened is in the past. So when emotional healing begins, reactions become responses. Triggers lose their intensity. Boundaries replace fear. Love feels safe, calmer, and more secure. Choices become intentional instead of reactive. Healing allows you to choose relationship from wholeness and not from wound. So how do you rewire this? Awareness is the first and more radical step. You can't change what you don't see. You must map its origin. How does it begin? You must first of all be aware of what you are passing through. You must be aware to trace it to where it begins, what it is all about, where the wound comes from, whether it's an abandonment wound, whether it's a rejection wound, whether it's a neglect wound, whether it's a shame wound. You acknowledge the source, and then you are aware that you actually have this. And then a lot of things happens. Your reactions become responses. Your triggers lose their intensity. Your boundaries replace fear. Love becomes safer, calmer, and more secure. Choices become more intentional instead of reactive. Healing allows you to choose relationship from wholeness and not from wound. When there is a wound, you always choose what feels familiar. What feels familiar. Let's look at some of these things we are even talking about. Some people are saying you are too sensitive. You may be sensitive, but you are not responding from a place that you know. You are responding from a place that was once hot. Maybe something like that has triggered you to be oversensitive in certain issues. So emotional wounds are those unresolved pain from through rejection, neglect, betrayal, criticism, or loss. Relationships don't create wounds, they reveal them. Until a wound is healed, it keeps speaking through reactions, fear, silence, fear, or withdrawal. Like I was saying before, Healing begins with awareness, and awareness begins here. You are not broken, you are becoming aware. And most of these struggles that we have don't start when we are adults. Sometimes they start when our needs were ignored, when love felt conditional, and when our emotions were dismissed, when safety feel uncertain, and then we learn to adopt. Then as adults, we repeat those adaptations in relationships until healing begins. What you learn to do to survive as a child may now be sabotaging your relationship as an adult. Healing is not about blaming the past. It is about freeing your future. So when a reaction feels bigger than the situation, a wound is speaking. Triggers are like emotional memories. They pull yesterday's pain into today's conversations. Your partner didn't create the pain. They touch a place that was already tender. So pause before reacting and ask, what is this reminding me of? That question can change everything. There are so many attachment styles that shape how you love, that shape how you live your life. There is the anxious attachment. This particular one fears abandonment like anything. Maybe while growing up, there was this fear that you'll be abandoned, that you are not good enough, that you are not loved. So there is anxious attachment. There is avoidant attachment, which fears closeness. They don't want anybody to come close. They build walls all around them. There is fearful attachment that wants love but fears pain. I will try, but I'm afraid I will be hurt. And then there is the secure attachment that trusts and connects. These styles are not flaws. They are learned responses to emotional safety or the lack of it. So what are we talking about here? We are saying that emotional wounds actually influence who you are attracted to, what you are tolerating in relationships, how you handle conflict, how safe you feel, be seen or known, how you give and receive love. Healing allows you to choose relationship from wholeness and not from wound. The scripture reminds us to guard our hearts with all wisdom, for out of it are the issues of life, and not ignore them. God cares deeply about emotional health because emotional wounds affect how we love, trust, submit, forgive, and connect. Faith does not eliminate the need for healing. It provides a foundation and grace to pursue it honestly. And one thing is that healing comes through a process, through awareness, truth, support, and intentional inner work. Your past may explain certain patterns in your life, but it does not have to define your future. Healing is a journey. It is not a moment. And choosing to heal is one of the most courageous decisions you can make for yourself, for your relationships, and generations after you. When emotional wounds are healed, love becomes a place of safety, not survival. Your wounds are not your destiny. They are your data. They show where you need healing. The goal isn't to have a perfect wound-free life. The goal is to develop enough self-awareness that you stop being a puppet of your past. The most profound shift is when you realize your flaws, your neediness, your walls, your perfectionism were once sacred survival tools. You can thank them for getting you here and then with compassion chose to lay them down. Healing is the process of relating to yourself and others from your present adult self and not from the wounded child inside. It's the hardest and most worthwhile work you will ever do. Most of us growing up have wounds, emotional traumas. maybe through what we passed through, maybe through a significant emotional experience that happened while growing up. And they tend to affect our lives, and affect how we relate with people. They even affect how we show up daily. So your past shaped your patterns, but it doesn't have to shape your future. What's one relationship pattern you have noticed in your life? I would like you to share in the comment. Let's get curious, not judgmental. If this resonates with you, share and share it. This conversation matters. Stay curious, be kind to yourself, and I will see you in the next one.